Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's February 3rd, 2021 at 3:34 for LCEA, Lake County Schools Bargaining. Um, Welcome, everybody. I don't really have a hard, fast agenda for us today like we've had the last couple meetings where we had a few important issues that we needed to handle. And then lastly, I had listed on there was basically our steps to move forward with the bargaining process. And we all know our situation there with our open negotiation for 1920 contract and currently operating under the last ratified 1819 contract. So today I scheduled today's session with pretty much the sole intent of us charting some type of course forward. So I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts or things you want to add in here to the beginning, but essentially I have a proposal from our side on a path forward. But if there's some other issues that you need to bring up or discuss, or you have some other thoughts or ideas for today, I'm open to it, Mr. Klatt, Ms. Smith.
Okay, I think first off, we've got to figure out, we know that contract violation is, and one of the things are what are we going to do to help alleviate or help those teachers who have more rosters than contract. One of the pieces might also should include changing the word roster to classes and subjects as defined by DOE. And that might clean up language at least, but we still have teachers teaching many more rosters than contract allows. So you were going to check on what we can do to I don't know what I would or balance. Do you have any thoughts, or any of your folks have any thoughts on that?
Addressing the topic of the open grievance that you guys have with us of the number of rosters assigned, which, you know, where there's the ins and outs on how that's defined. I agree, there's some discrepancy there. I'm not prepared to, you know, discuss that grievance today and where we stand with that. What I can tell you is we were waiting to see how semester rolled over and how we were going to, you know, monitor and keep an eye on where we could provide relief in those areas. I can tell you it's constantly being monitored, and we have a lot of classrooms that are under class size, but we're also, as recent as yesterday, approving additional allocations in hotspots to reduce class sizes where we can, and at the same time continue to take care of our folks that are hanging in virtual right now and things of that nature.
Okay, that's class size, but what about the number of rosters being taught?
I mean, I think you know the situation with rosters. It's very typical and of what's going on in high schools and pretty much anywhere in the state of Florida. If you're going to continue to provide students with, you know, the opportunities that, you know, we need to provide them with, then people are going to have different rosters assigned to them and how they show up in Skyward. But honestly, my only desire is to discuss that probably not in a bargaining standpoint at this point, but if we want to meet to discuss the grievance, then I'm definitely open to that.
Okay, and then the other issue you were going to check on is the MOU on CCCs for speech and language therapists.
Yeah, I've actually got that in part of my proposal today, a way to remedy that issue. The going back and doing and investigating what went on at that time, I was correct in that the spirit of that agreement was for our acting SLPs, and and that's evidenced further by looking back at the individual that was serving in that role prior to retirement. While they did not have their Cs, however, they would have been considered in that grandfather additional amount that was for people serving as an SLP in the schools. However, I have talked with the ESE department and worked on ways that we can try and support that individual and include them. So I'll go over that whenever I pull up our proposal.
So I was correct that the MOU did include folks like that program specialist?
No, you were incorrect.
I was?
Yes.
MOU says specifically providing therapy?
It says for SLPs, and the program specialist is not in a position of SLP.
But she is, okay. She is an SLP though. She doesn't have her Cs.
I'm also a teacher, but that's not if you look at my certification, but that's not the job performance, or that's not what the job I'm currently listed as. That's not my assignment. So I'm just telling you, I've found a way to remedy it, because I do think that this person likely deserves to be included in that, but that was not the spirit of the agreement at the time.
So what are you proposing then?
That we include them if they have Cs. So I've got that in my full proposal today.
Okay. So does your proposal also cover some of the other areas where we've made offers or made proposals on?
It does have some of that included, yes. I can go ahead and pull it up if you want to take a look.
Please do.
Can you guys see board proposal to move forward on the screen?
I can see it. It's a little tough to read, but
okay, well, basically the nature of what I'm proposing today, I can try and blow it up a little bit more. Hang on. Basically, the premise around what I'm proposing today is an agreement that we move forward, and I'll read the first part here. Both parties agree to continue the ongoing discussions from the 2019-20 negotiation, with a shared understanding that future negotiations and agreements will be encompassed in year 1 of 3 for the 2021 full open contract bargaining agreement. Commencement of bargaining for the 2021 agreement will occur on an agreed upon date by both parties in March of 2021. In line with past practice, neither party is limited to the articles open to discussion and a full open contract negotiation until ratification of the 2021 collective bargaining agreement. Both parties agree to the following amendments to the most recent ratified agreement through a memorandum of understanding. By no means does agreement to these terms limit either party's rights to request an immediate return to the table. for impact bargaining. And then basically what I did was pulled some of the areas that we were able to come to, and that some areas that we discussed. First and foremost was the teachers not being required for the common board configuration. And then you have the reduction of 4 individuals to 3 individuals when visiting a classroom, and related to classroom visits, and then the line we've discussed about minimizing interruption, and then the purpose of the learning walks and the further establishment of the learning walk tool not being evaluative. Then in section 20, we had come back for, time being granted for release for folks that voluntarily cover classes. That's that elementary level concern that we had. And you guys have requested that we bump those up by 15 minutes because it kind of went from 0 to 45 when I proposed it. Now it's from 15 to an hour. And also says that, there's alternative methods at the school level between teacher and administrator if they want to work those out. Then we established that for evening activities, that people won't be required to attend evening or weekend activities that are primarily designed as a fundraising event. And then the differentiated pay section was where we were adding in the speech language pathologist agreement from the MOU, and I added in this second bullet. Any program specialist assigned to perform duties of an SLP that holds a CCC will receive an annual $3,000 supplement. So we've included them in that batch now. And then I took basically all of the joint leadership committee because it was still kind of wrapped in the current contract language, where I pulled it out. And we made a few minor changes as we talked about it, but one of them was that if it takes place during contract hours, that you guys had asked for that we provide coverage, and that your folks will be compensated at an hourly rate if the committee meetings happen outside of their contract time. And then the rest of these were the different subsections of that section. So, I mean, my goal here is to not dive back into every issue, and beat a dead horse, but to at least where we made a little bit of progress, allow that progress to go ahead and take hold through this MOU that would serve us until ratification of open book contract.
Questions then. The evening activities not for fundraising events, how does that differ than what we have now that says only for academic purposes?
I think when you get into events such as graduation and other things like that, I think there could be debate over whether those are events for academic purposes or after the fact, and those aren't things that we have agreed to bargain away. But it does prevent, a weekend fun run for the Cancer Society of occupying people's times, or even if it's a school-wide, just in general fundraiser, it would basically make it to where teachers have some flexibility to volunteer to come and serve in that capacity.
So, okay, you had no CBC. Again, how does that differ than what's in there now, which doesn't explain or doesn't have it in there at all? So,
Well, you guys are the ones that asked for no common board
Okay,
configuration. That was in an old grievance, so that was something that I offered
okay,
to you guys.
okay. Can you go down to the section on, did you make any planning periods?
I do not have a planning period section in here.
Oh, I thought you did. I thought I saw it in there.
There was yeah, whenever it's talking
There,
about the joint leadership committee roles and that committee makes recommendations to ensure equitable maximal instructional time and planning period for every teacher. It's basically taking the current language that's embedded in the contract in several areas and just pulling all those leadership committee, because we had called it a leadership team, and then we've changed it to reduce some confusion to a joint leadership committee, and by separating it into a separate section, allows administrators and instructional personnel to be able to identify exactly what their participation looks like on that committee.
okay. Now, we did have some issues this year where people called them a different name and didn't apply because it was a new name. So is
That's the
gonna be
goal
an issue?
that's the goal, is to reduce that. And I think we've got a lot of where we might have had where we might have had a few issues to where you had people that were trying to figure it out along the way too, and how do they accomplish. I think there was just confusion. Anytime they were thinking, anytime the leadership team, which is traditionally your administrative staff and perhaps even a couple instructional people that are not serving as a committee member or like a building rep are coming together, and there was confusion. Okay, like anyone would think they're not supposed to meet unless they're there. So this established that it's a joint, meaning union and leadership coming together to establish some things. And really, it's those routines and procedures that most people are doing. It stands out to me that I remember Miss Llewellyn saying, with her crew, it's like, look, here, you guys figure this out. I want to do what's best for you guys. And I don't think she wanted to have a whole lot to do with it, but allowing her folks to help figure that out. So it's really just setting up. A lot of it's, beginning of the year stuff that sets the tone for the year.
But doesn't some of the master schedule and planning period, the summer, and then they get informed of that? So how's that? So is that going to be an issue as well?
I think it's the administrative duty to form that master schedule. But as they're talking through, they can talk with them about planning periods. But I'm not interested in having a contractual obligation to include anyone other than our administrative staff who's in charge of running the educational program, developing the master schedule, which I can tell you, a lot of them include instructional personnel already as they're looking at different things. But
Okay, any willingness to look at planning periods? Because right now we have a lot of people who end up losing planning periods due to MTSS, IEPs, others. Is there any way we can work out where they aren't losing their planning periods for those meetings?
no, I think we've got things built into the contract for when they move beyond required meetings and different things. But as far as we can't lawfully keep teachers from participating in IEP meetings. So I mean, I think there's things in place to.
No, I'm saying, but I'm saying that you could do that by bringing in a substitute, freeing up the teacher to be in the IEP meeting, because that's required by federal law, that some teachers have to be involved in that. I'm just saying, is there a way we can do that so they're not
So they're not what?
giving up their planning period for that?
I think they're scheduling the best they can out of the schools now. I don't know what you think that looks like, but I think you've moved away from the days of pulling the PE teacher to do 1,000 IEPs in one day, to, the IEPs are held true to their intent to get the best people at the table to make team decisions for what's best for these kids with disabilities. So I think when that becomes the priority, which it should be, sometimes it limits, getting everybody, everything working out perfectly for everybody.
But I know, like, there are some schools that I know have brought in a substitute to free teachers up to do their IEP meetings so they don't have to give up their regular planning period
I would
as a
probably tell you
strategy.
that it's happening in a variety of ways at all schools. I doubt there's probably not one school that's doing it one certain way. They're acting out of necessity, whenever they do have to do that. I think the principals do, understand the value of the planning period for their teachers. I mean, that's, a lot of these, intricate issues that we've discussed, numerous times. That's why I put in this, that, we're going to get back to the table here right at the beginning of March, so we can hop right back into those issues. But I feel like we've got to chart a course forward and have it documented that it is our course moving forward.
Have is, if we're truly going to do full book, doing it 2 hours a month is not probably the most conducive way. I know Miami-Dade and other counties schedule an entire day starting at 7 or 8 in the morning and go as long as they can, as much ground. The 2 hours a month just isn't covering the territory we need, especially if we're going to go full book and go in through a lot of the school board policies that really probably should have been run through bargaining as well, especially some of the new Neola stuff.
And that's what I'm establishing in this, just reiterating that full book. There's not a limit to the articles that you guys can open for discussion. If you reflect back to last time we were full book, we were not meeting 2 hours a month. We were meeting full days on a regular basis.
Yeah, we were.
And we combed through that entire contract. So I feel like a lot of the restructuring and a lot of the cleanup that needed to occur in the contract occurred in some of those long days of negotiation. But I definitely agree that, coming into a full book, we'll need to schedule some full days and push through. I can tell you that's been a big part of our struggle, is we're operating under a pretty tight and well-conceived contract. And I think that's where we struggle when we get down to brass tacks on some issues, because when the mindset of, okay, if there's no money, then you get language. When you're operating with a tight contract and a tight budget, that's where we wind up in situations like we're at now. Because I fully understand you guys, and appreciate the desire to provide both compensation and relief for teachers. But at the same time, we're not willing to give up management rights to do so. We can work with our teachers, and I don't think that our time at the table, even though we lack a signed agreement at this point, I don't think it was all for naught. I think we have accomplished a lot of things because our mission together and a shared interest has been to, when money is available, get compensation to the pockets of our employees, and we have done that through MOUs. So things have changed. I think our approach to bargaining as a whole has got to evolve. Because if we're going to wait on money that's bargainable and hold the contract hostage for language that we can't get eye to eye on, we're going to constantly find ourselves in the situation bogged down like we are now. And you know, you've seen the governor's budget proposal, which we know that's only as good as the paper it's on until the legislature comes through. But their plan is to take the same approach as they did last time, but with a lot less money. So we'll see how all that plays out as we go through March and April in the legislative process. But you know, if we're going to sit back in our corners and wait on that money to determine how much language we change, we're not going to get a whole lot done.
Okay, so bottom line, what else can you offer to teachers that would make this a palatable option?
So this is my proposal. So if you guys want to take it to the caucus and discuss it, then that's fine. And you know, I'm all about, I mean, you just come back with the same question and no ideas. So, and usually your ideas are, you know, taking away management rights or things that are going to limit the collaboration between teachers and their instructional leaders in their buildings. So I don't know what to tell you. As we go through and continue to measure the impacts that the pandemic is going to have on our budget, and heck, all the new money that might come through CARES and how we can use that in that second round of ESSER, you know, there's a good chance we might come out all right. And as we move forward with bargaining, you know, there might be some money we'll be able to come forward with at that time that doesn't have as many strings attached to it. But I don't have that ability at this time.
You do.
So, excuse me?
If I can say something,
Sure.
I think a lot of the teachers right now, and I'm all for the language and I'm all for all of this stuff happening. I think the divide between the teachers and bargaining, if the teachers just saw this, you guys put a line item in so that we had some hope of them supporting us with teacher raises in the budget without having it be an afterthought or waiting for the governor to come through with his money. That's all the teachers, they feel then they would be supported by our school board. Just don't make us an after fact. Go ahead and give us a line item in the budget.
And until we can't afford it. And then what we've done then is provided them with a false pretense that we can give a raise for money that we do not have yet, which in turn would absolutely damage the credibility and the trust and relationship between the teachers and the school board and the district office. So that doesn't, empty promises. I think teachers are way smarter than that.
Well, I'm not asking for empty promises, but at least a cost of living increase. I don't think that's too much to put in a budget. That would mean a lot.
And I agree. And I hope that we have some funds to where we can do that. But I mean, at the end of the day, if you want to look in your budget and see where the money for increases is, and it would be our goal to raise our unreserved fund balance every year. We finished with 5%. We dipped a little bit below that due to the agreement we have from our last bargaining session to get the rest of the folks up to a 2% raise for this year. And as we close out this year, we're going to try and close and come back with a budget that yields more than the unreserved fund balance that we had the year before, and help that grow, because that's the free money that we can contribute to teachers. And I mean, I don't mind. We can, you know, we spend a lot of time on the road going in and talking with teachers directly with the superintendent to help them understand how we're funded. And we can, you know, it's probably about time, as we look at, you know, how we're going to be impacted by a pandemic and moving forward our steps, you know, it's probably time that we get back out in front of teachers and help explain some of those things so they understand the budget process better.
Okay. Can you think of anything that we can take off of teachers' plates from your end, from your perspective?
Stuart, I don't know what you mean, man. You ask these same open air questions every time. And like I said before, you're the expert that represents the teachers. So what are you proposing?
Well, we've proposed quite a bit, but that's beside the point, apparently.
No, that is the point. That's exactly the point. You know, it's easy for you to sit back and just to toss open air questions out there. But you know, that we live and breathe every day what we can do for teachers. And the folks in this room are on the front lines of it, out there trying to provide them support and resources and the things they need and relief where they can. So a lot of what winds up being proposed a lot of times, what might be good for a few might not be good for all. And it winds up restricting the flexibility that these administrators have to work with their teachers out in the schools. So, you know, I'm sure if we want to be here all night, they could probably go through and tell you, you know, different things that they're doing to help support their teachers on a daily basis, and concessions they're making. Some I might not want to know about, and some that, you know, I'd be encouraged to hear. But, you know, we sat here and tussled over language that it would only cast a blanket over our schools and likely cause hardships in some areas for instructional personnel.
Okay. Well,
But, you know, I don't expect you to make a snap decision sitting here today. I mean, I can send you the proposal over and you guys can chew on it and we can hop back together really soon. But
all right, let's do that.
I feel like it would be really encouraging. I think our teachers, our administrators, I think all of our personnel understand the circumstances that we're under at the moment. And I think there will be a pretty good understanding that, you know, we need to take an opportunity to move forward and start getting prepared for what's coming down the pipe here in the near future. So you want me to send this over to you guys and then we can?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay. Well, I'll do that.
Now,
Do you guys have any additional things today?
we proposed differentials for longevity, and of course, school board came back with a no. Is there a smaller amount that would be agreeable that from your perspective?
At this time, I don't have, we don't have anything for longevity supplements at this point. But like I said, hopefully we can come out of legislative session and looking at our budget, and perhaps we do, we will have some opportunity to put some things forward. Like last time, I said that the appetite of the board and the interest of the board towards that type of proposal, they were fond of it. So if Mr. Ward through planning for the district and working with the superintendent and board can establish that there's some available funds for that type of endeavor, then I definitely think it's a possibility. Not today though.
Okay. Wasn't there salary Fund 100 carryover? This is an FYI.
I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Extra funds that were budgeted in Fund 100 that we didn't spend last year.
Not
Hence
that I'm aware of.
carryover. Well, we would have had some salaries that weren't fulfilled out of Fund 100.
Well, you always have laps, but you budget laps, and then laps is like a bucket, and you take that money and you fill in the unspent funds from those types of circumstances, and you fill in that lapse budgeted area. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we will definitely can provide updates on laps as we close out books. Any free general funds were part of that 5% fund balance that we ended the year with.
All right. Kathy? Kathy,
I'm fine.
you have anything you want to add?
Not right now.
Okay, well, I'll send this over to you guys, and if you want to reach back to Gail, and we can work on setting up our next session. I definitely don't want to wait too long to do that, though.
I do want to make sure, though, we are still okay with the COVID funds and so forth. We are still continuing to do as we have, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, just want to make sure.
And that's something, that as we keep moving forward, that's definitely, something we need to discuss further as we look at, how this thing trails out. I'm hoping that we start to see a reduction in how it's impacting our employees. But
Yeah, last I heard, we'd only spent, what, 35% of the available money? Has that changed, David?
are you talking about the CARES funding?
Yeah.
All of that, I believe, is accounted for through our plans. So I think there's plan for expenditures there, but there's a whole nother SR2 that's coming down
right.
that we're waiting to get details on that. We're hoping it's going to provide us a tremendous amount of support. And we're going to, Scott's going to be, Mr. Ward is going to be working to get as much flexibility in the use of that money as possible.
So I know that the plans on the care money was 100%, but last I heard, we'd only actually spent 35%. So
I don't think it's stuff that all just flies out at once. The required planning for those expenditures was pretty expensive and broken down into several different categories.
and part of it was, okay.
And working with the state, it took a little while for the state to get in line because a lot of districts were sending plans up there, and they were getting kicked back to them at a high frequency. And that began to resolve itself probably about a month ago. I think the governor and the commissioner's office got the folks in line in DOE crucial positions in those areas to help loosen that process a little bit. So I'm not exactly sure what the percentage of expenditure is at this point, but I know that the planned expenditures should be all accounted for at this point.
All right, thank you.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else for the good of the order, we'll go ahead and close out.
Not right now, thanks.
Okay. All right, it's 4:15, February 3rd, 2021, and this concludes LCS, LCEA bargaining.